It's not a weird. It's a normal scheme. We just didn't execute it, and
Because both the left tackle and left guard ended up to the other side of the center by the time the play was over, and there's two dudes over here. Logan's supposed to.
two dudes running free, and we don't know who to block. And then when we do, we get bull rushed. It was a disaster.
And they don't use tight ends to block.
No.
9 plays, and he avoided 2 sacks.
Yes. Oh, it could have been worse.
That's the thing. He avoided 2 sacks.
Yeah, he did. No, he did.
I'm afraid of a bloodbath today. I don't either, but I'm still afraid of a bloodbath.
All right.
Are we
hello.
ready?
Whoa. We're echoing here. Hello, hello. That's better. What's my camera? Are you my camera? Is that you are? Okay. Spencer, are you here? Huh. All right. How's this going? I didn't tell Estridge about our O-line.
Good.
Let him find out. We'll talk about it on here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he ain't watching.
No. Okay, just 2 camera ops? Okay. Okay. What if I decide to move around a lot? That's what you need with these 2 dudes up here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Pony Up Pregame Show presented by Origin Bank. I am Rich Phillips. We're here at Armstrong Fieldhouse, the indoor practice facility for the SMU Mustangs. We are getting ready for the battle for the Iron Skillet today, 4 o'clock, between SMU and TCU at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. Reminder, any of you that are here or on your way here, you can bring a sealed bottle of water or an empty water bottle in to Ford Stadium today, so keep that in mind. A little warm here with the 4 o'clock kick this afternoon, but at least most of the stands will be in the shade at kickoff time. Scott Garner joining me as well. We'll both be on the radio broadcast over on 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket, which begins at 3:30 today for our pregame show. And we'll look a lot at TCU, obviously, on the show today. But first off, let's look a little bit at what happened in the last 2 weeks for SMU. An eventful couple of weeks with a bye week in the middle because we had a pretty significant quarterback position change here for SMU.
Did, and I really like how the change came. It came just in the nick of time, and it came on time. And some were a little bit concerned that, hey, maybe we might be giving some things away, announcing our quarterback change early. But, hey, listen, you got to get something like that done, get it done early, get it behind you. I know Rhett Lashley was certainly a little bit concerned about that. They had a great week of practice this last week, and so we're going to be seeing Kevin Jennings taking the snaps today. today.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough night for Preston Stone 2 weeks ago, an 18-15 loss to BYU. Preston started the game, played the first two series.
Yep.
Then Kevin Jennings came in, played the next two, which had been the way the first couple of games. Preston came back the third series, and then that was it for him. The offense went nowhere, 9 snaps, and to be honest, he didn't have much of a chance. He was sacked 3 times. He avoided 2 other sacks in just 9 snaps of play. They just couldn't move the ball at that time.
Sacked 3 times, still 29th nationally in sacks permitted. But again, all 3 of those sacks happened when Preston was out there, as you mentioned. Couldn't get it blocked. Trying to pull guards in pass protection. You had running backs that would leak out rather than staying back for pass protection. So he's had some communication issues. Just had some functionality problems for the Mustangs a couple of weeks ago. But, hey, listen, when you change quarterbacks and make this type of dramatic switch going from what we had been doing to now, obviously a true winner in Kevin Jennings, Rich, things are going to be different. They were different in the BYU game, running a lot more RPO. So that sort of neutralizes the aggression from safeties and linebackers. Should be a much different situation today.
Yeah, definitely. The good news is this guy has done this. This will be his third start for Kevin Jennings, and his first 2, they were pretty big games. A conference championship game last year in the American, and then the bowl game in the Fenway Bowl against Boston College. So he's not new to this. He has had a lot of experience, and also it's not the first meaningful snaps of this season. He's played meaningful snaps all 3 weeks of this season.
No doubt. And the meaningful snaps means that when he gets in there today, regardless of what TCU decides to do and how they blitz and how often they blitz, the game will be at regular pace for him. It's not going to be sped up. That's the one thing that you really become concerned about when you start playing a backup quarterback. But for Kevin, he's been in there. He's taken those significant snaps. We'll see how the offense responds, but ball control is going to be the name of the game. This TCU offense is electric. We saw that in the UCF game. So SMU's got to keep the ball out of their hands. Ball control going to be crucial, and time of possession today.
They also have to block better. Have to block better for the quarterback, block better for the running game, and more changes on the offensive line today for Rhett Lashley. Going to start at left tackle now, Andrew Chambly this week. I think we'll see Savion Byrd play some at left tackle. Logan Parr will be the left guard. Ja'Kai Clark will stay at center. Justin Osborne's back where I think he's actually probably most comfortable at right guard, the right tackle, P.J. Williams. I mean, the bottom line is they didn't block well against BYU 2 weeks ago.
You know, and P.J. Williams, he got beat on a spin move. Stone got sacked on that play. You go to look at Savion Byrd. He really fired off well in short yardage situations. We're going to see him more, do a little bit more in terms of that today. Ja'Kai Clark, he got pushed into the backfield some on an inside run. But Logan Parr, a guy that's making now 15 consecutive starts, sometimes struggled on the outside zone run, whiffed on pass protection at times. But again, they're making some adjustments. And again, we're going to be relying heavily on the RPO game, which will neutralize a lot of that pressure.
It's what UCF did last week to TCU. Now, their quarterback weighs about 50 pounds more than our quarterback does. But that's what they did with great success, was run a lot of RPO against them. I will tell you, the run game, I think, has been pretty good for SMU so far this season, and I'm really impressed with Brashard Smith. This is a guy who carried the ball 18 times as a running back in 3 years at Miami. He was mostly a receiver. He's had 70-plus yards all 3 games already this year.
He has, and he's had at least 100 all-purpose yards in all 3 games. But the one thing that you really like about him, and it's hard to teach, it's finishing off inside runs, not bouncing when you shouldn't, and making certain that you put your nose up in there. Now, at times, he ends up taking some hits that you like a guy even of Smith's caliber not to have to take, but you have to do that to be productive, and he's not scared. He runs effortlessly, and he runs with determination. You've got to have that.
Now, they're a little thin at that spot. Jalen Knighton was hurt on the last possession of the BYU game. Looks like he's going to need surgery and be lost for the year. Zane Miners had gotten hurt a couple weeks ago in the Houston Christian game. He's lost for the year, and we knew Kamar Wheaton was lost for the year before the year began with an injury on the second day of practice back in August. And so when you look behind Brashard Smith, L.J. Johnson, who did not play, I think he played 1 snap in the BYU game because he was dinged up. He will be the backup. You got to be ready for Derek McFall, I think, the true freshman out of Tyler, who we saw in the HCU game, and maybe some Roderick Daniels in the backfield too. But they're getting a little thin at the running back spot already.
Daniels can do it. You know, obviously it takes some time to become accustomed to that running back spot at this level, knowing exactly when to put your foot in the ground and get vertical rather than bounce. But watch McFall. We may see him get some carries today. I thought he did really well a couple of weeks ago against HCU. He ran for 69 yards on a total of 16 carries, had the touchdown, had a long of 17. So He's got a very high ceiling, doesn't have experience, but we'll use him sporadically, I would think, moving forward, given our situation.
Should mention, the defense did its job 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
They only gave up 18 points. It should be enough. They had 3 takeaways in
Yes.
that game. They're getting back to where they were last year with those takeaways the last couple of weeks and doing it with a lot of different guys that Scott Simons rolls in there, but they're finding ways to make plays. They had a bunch of huge third down stops against BYU.
And a couple of really big plays, particularly on BYU's end of midfield, as you had mentioned, Rich. But, yes, the turnovers forced, something that you really like. And you've talked about how the defensive line, they've got a couple of picks there, one more than even the secondary.
They need to get after it. D tackles,
know, right?
2 interceptions. Linebackers, 1. DBs, 1.
Yes.
That doesn't compute normally that way.
No, but hey, 15th nationally in turnovers, and that's something that TCU just has not done. They are having a tough time turning teams over. Just 2 interceptions on defense for TCU, no interceptions, only 2 INTs on defense. So they're struggling there. And remember last year they struggled in that respect too. They were 115th in the country in takeaways. So while they're physical, they haven't been able to take the ball away. I think that may be something to look at today.
Now, they're not turning the ball over on offense.
No.
The Horned Frogs here today, 4 o'clock at Ford Stadium. Their quarterback, Josh Hoover, he leads the nation in most pass attempts without an interception, 119. He's 3rd in the nation in passing yards with 1,022. Boy, he has 3, I think, fantastic wide receivers in Savion Williams, Jack Beck, and J.P. Richardson. We're probably not going to see a better trio this season.
Not going to. And if you watch the first half of that UCF game, that trio of wide receivers played as well as they could possibly play. They can't play better than they played. It was a little bit different story in the second half, but you watch Savion Williams. That is a guy that went up between 2 guys, leaped between 2 defenders. He was being bookended there and was able to pull down the touchdown. And how about that throw in the end zone where he had to reach back behind him to make that catch in the first half? Those guys can't play better than they played. I don't think Hoover can play better than what he showed in that first half. Rich, he hit 10 ball. He had 10 completions, and 5 of those early were at least 10 yards or more. They converted on third repeatedly, had 7 third-down conversions in a row against UCF, and 3 of those were third and long. They can't function better than that. I don't think we'll see that caliber of TCU team today. I think SMU comes out and really establishes their defense early on.
Boy, and they've got to be hurting after losing last week. They were up 21 at one point on UCF and lost 35-34 at home. It is the 103rd all-time meeting between SMU and TCU in the battle for the Iron Skillet. 4 o'clock kick today here at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. TV-wise, it is on the CW, which is channel 33 in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and radio-wise, we have it on 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket, as well as on the SMU app, and we're on Sirius XM channel 202. SMU and TCU coming up. Let's get a little look at what SMU's been up to during the bye week. It is the Podium pregame show here at the Armstrong Fieldhouse. We do this every week on the SMU Mustangs Facebook page 2 hours prior to kickoff, both home and road games. So be sure you join us each week as we get you ready for that week's SMU game, which is, of course, today, the battle for the Iron Skill at 4 o'clock, SMU and TCU at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. This segment called Rhett to the Point. We hear from SMU head coach Rhett Lashley. Some clips here from his weekly show that is over at Ozona Grill and Bar on Wednesday nights. It's also here on the SMU Mustangs Facebook page at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. And, of course, first thing we had to talk about on the show this week was his change of quarterback from Preston Stone to Kevin Jennings.
We just felt as a coaching staff and as a team, we needed some consistency.
I don't hear it.
And we feel like it gives us the best chance to win right now.
Is it real low?
None of those decisions are made based off one game or one moment. It's never made with a quick snap judgment. It's a lot of thought goes into it, especially when you're going to make a decision like that. You got to consider really only internally what matters, what's best for your team, what's best to give you the chance, not only in the next game, but week after week after week, to particularly on offense, develop an identity and try to be a good offense that can help us win games, and then for your whole team culture. And we needed direction, we needed clarity. Both guys have been fantastic, and we made the decision to go with Kevin. We think largely due to not only the 3 games this year, but just the sample size we have, we feel like that gives us a chance to grow and become the best offense we can be.
So it will be Kevin Jennings making his 3rd career start this afternoon here at home against the TCU Horned Frogs. 2 weeks ago, it was a loss 18-15 to BYU. Obviously a frustrating night when you get no offensive touchdowns. All the scoring was 5 field goals from Colin Rogers. Some thoughts from Rhett on the loss 2 weeks ago.
We didn't make ourselves hard to beat. And, the first quarter was pretty poor. The first 2 or 3 drives, it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds. They came out in something different, and we didn't handle it very well, and that's not the way it should be. We had some protection busts, and we never got going. And then we settled in, and we started moving the football. We had a 4th and 1, went for it, would go for it again. We just didn't execute it, and then we kicked a bunch of field goals. We still had a lead at halftime. We started settling in. Second half, we got 2 great turnovers, a great field position, and got 3 points out of it. We turned the ball over on a fumble inside the 10 after a critical holding penalty. We threw an interception inside the 10. And so we just we had every opportunity to take control of that game. We never did it from an offensive standpoint. And so it was a very uncharacteristic, undisciplined offensive performance, and it's disappointing.
And this week, both teams disappointed coming in. The Mustangs coming in off that loss 2 weeks ago. TCU coming in off a loss last week, 35-34 to UCF. Obviously a heartbreaker for the Horned Frogs.
They played really well. Offensively, they were clicking at a clip that was really impressive. I think Josh Hoover's a really good football player. Yeah. He's from not too far from here, and he's really accurate, not turning the ball over. They've got really good weapons to get the ball to. They've got, Beck and J.P. Richardson, I think, are 2 of the better college football players that are in the country that, everyone wants to talk about this guy or that guy. Those 2 dudes are football players, and they do it all. They're not just – so they're a problem. Plus they have the big 6'5" wide receiver and Savion that's been there the last few years. And so they got weapons on offense. They're playing at a high level. And then they got a new defense. I think you saw that the other night. If they play that game 20 times the way it unfolded for 3 quarters, they're winning 19 or 20 of those. Sure. And so – they're probably feeling a lot like we were coming off the week before, like they had an opportunity to win a game and be 3-0, and they let that opportunity slip. And, so they're coming in here motivated just like we are.
Bank knows what strong teams can accomplish. By working together, Origin's trusted advisors help you keep your financial goals within reach. Get the right people on your team today at originbank.com, member FDIC. Time now for our view from the sideline. The 3rd member of our radio broadcast joins us here each week on the Pony Up pregame show, Steve Lansdale. He is our sideline reporter as well on the radio broadcast. A lot of importance this week for the SMU defensive line, especially because Josh Hoover's only been touched once, only been sacked 1 time in the first 3 weeks.
He's only been touched once, and he leads the entire nation for passes attempted without throwing an interception. If there's ever a game in which defensive pressure is critically important, today is it. So we've heard a lot through the first few weeks of the season about how the Mustangs have recruited all these guys through the transfer portal. They're deeper. They try to go 2, 3, maybe even 4 deep on the defensive line. Scott Simons, Calvin Thibodeau, Sam Rudham, they're going to rotate guys, obviously, and go through depth, but it'll be interesting to watch how that rotation plays out and also how many different angles they take, how many kind of exotic looks or stunts they try to throw at the Frogs, because the Mustangs have guys who can make takeaways behind them, but it's coaching 101. It all starts with the pressure you get up front. They've got to get after Hoover.
They've been getting there a little bit the last couple of weeks. Jafari Harvey starting to make some plays coming off the edge. That guy's played a ton of football, too, in the past at Miami. And then Elijah Roberts hadn't had a sack, but he forced and covered a fumble last week. So the ends are starting to get some pressure in there. Right,
and Jared Harrison-Hunt's gotten in there, and we've seen Tank Booker collapse the pocket a little bit. They're going to need all of those against a TCU line that is big. It's veteran. 4 of the 5 starters are transfers. But the Mustangs have some horses. They can come at them from different angles, and they need to find ways, as you said, to get to Josh Hoover, who has been completely clean through the early games this year for the Frogs.
It is a rivalry game today, the 103rd meeting between SMU and TCU. I sometimes wonder in the portal era how much rivalries really mean, because you got a lot of guys that have never played it. But this team has a lot of guys that were here last year, and some guys that were here when Sonny Dykes coached this team. So I think it does still mean a little bit more to a lot of the players out here today.
Well, certainly the SMU guys who were here when Sonny Dykes was at SMU,
100%.
They totally feel this rivalry. And the guys who grew up in the program at both schools, they feel this as well. But as you said, in the transfer portal era, more and more guys are in their first year, second year. They don't have the same history, the same background. And even those players who have transferred in during press conferences this week have been saying all the right things about, we know the history, we know the rivalry between these two schools. They're 30 miles apart or whatever it is. Scud, the cornerback for TCU, Scud James, he said he feels it, and he's been on campus in Fort Worth for 2 months. But do they? And if so, look, a lot of fans are coming over from Fort Worth as well. If you walk out on the boulevard right now, there are a lot of purple shirts out there. There will be a lot of purple shirts in the stadium. So how each team manages their emotions today is going to be important. You can't let emotion override the assignments that they know they have to do. And so it'll be interesting to watch on the sideline when the players gather with their assistant coaches, how much of what they discuss is X's and O's, and how much is just calm down, relax, play your game, stay within your assignments, fill your gaps, take care of your responsibilities. That could end up being a critical component to the end result.
I know this. The SMU starting quarterback grew up in Dallas, and he told me it does matter to him.
Absolutely it does. Anyone who grew up in DFW, they know this game.
All right, that's Steve Lansdale. He'll come back with us here in a few minutes when we pick some games later here on the Pony Up pregame show. We are getting you ready for SMU and TCU at 4 o'clock today here at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. SMU with a new quarterbacks coach. He actually took over the position right before the bowl game last year. Brianna Sorensen has more with De'Aaron King.
Bree Sorensen here with De'Aaron King, SMU football quarterbacks coach. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing great. Couldn't ask for anything more, so doing pretty good.
Awesome. Now, you've had quite the football journey so far. You're 27 years old. You've had a successful career at quarterback. You started your career at Houston, where you set the American single-season record with 50 touchdowns. Transferred to Miami, and now you're going into your second season here at SMU, currently now as our quarterbacks coach. How would you describe this crazy football journey for you so far?
It's been a lot of fun, right? You go from playing college football, playing for a bunch of really good coaches, and now being a coach myself. It's been, a great adventure, and I'm, super blessed to be in this position I'm in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You were recently named the 24/7 Sports 30 Under 30 list. What was your initial reaction when you found out you made that really prestigious list?
It's a really big honor for coaches, right? I think it's a representation of what we do here at SMU. I work with a great staff. I got a really good quarterback room, and it's just a blessing to be on that list.
What are some of your biggest takeaways that you've learned from Coach Lashley?
Yeah, I think, Coach, I played for a bunch of different quarterback coaches and OCs in college, right? And I think Coach Lashley was the very best at communication. The way he communicated with me in game, in practice, watching tape, like he's really, really good at communication, right? He knows how to get his point across, and I try to take that from him and apply it to my coaching ability now.
What's been your motivation moving so fast in such a successful way from player to coach?
Yeah, I grew up a coach's kid. So my dad was a high school coach for 10 years. So I always been around the locker room, and I love the game. And I think coach has really impacted my life. So I knew one day I wanted to get into coaching, and Coach last year gave me this opportunity. Man, it was amazing, right? And I'm so glad it happened, and it's just great to be here right now.
How excited are you now this year going into the ACC as a coach?
Super excited, right? Playing in the ACC when I played at University of Miami, and now getting to coach in it. I feel like I know the league pretty well, and it's a really big stage for our guys. So I'm super excited to watch our guys play this year. I know we're going to be successful.
Well, thank you so much, Coach, for talking to us today, and good luck with these upcoming games.
Thank you.
That's Bree Sorensen with SMU quarterbacks coach De'Aaron King. We are now joined here on the Pony Up pregame show by a Hall of Famer. Nick Moore with us, SMU basketball legend here from 2013 to 16. First off, congratulations getting into the SMU Athletic Hall of Fame last night. That had to be fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun.
Two-time player of the year in the American Athletic Conference. The team went 79-22 when you were here and 50-4 at home. What an amazing ride you had when you played here.
It was something special. I told you guys it's always electric here, and I'm just glad I was part of something special.
You originally went to Illinois State, where Tim Jankovich recruited you, and after 1 year, he's getting hired to be associate head coach here at SMU. First off, had you heard of SMU before that?
I have never heard of SMU before that. I told the crowd last night that as soon as I heard him going to SMU, I went back and Google searched it. It was like, what is SMU and where is it at?
Wow. He brought you with him to play for Larry Brown. Unfortunately, you got to sit out the first year, the old transfer rules. But what was that like for you to get to play for a Hall of Famer himself in LB?
It was a dream come true, really. I just got to know the game at the highest level, what everybody was going to do on the court, and it was just a privilege, and I'm honored to be able to play for him.
And, when you came here, you had talked about how Larry helped you in so many ways, Nick. One of the things you talked about is how Larry helped you slow the game down. How did he do that?
Just showing me every time, basically trial and error, but holding me accountable. He's a perfectionist, so if he told me to do something and I did it wrong, he stopped, and I'd do it again and do it again and do it again. So I'd perfect it, and then once I got the hang of it and knew how he wanted me to be, I just kind of mastered it.
Yeah, you're a high school coach now, and what a lot of people probably don't realize is that most high school teams don't have a lot of real leadership. That has to be developed. But you were a great leader when you came here. How did you get that way? What are you using now to try to help your guys become great leaders?
Basically all the stuff my coaches showed me, accountability, holding them accountable, tough love, and then also just explaining the whys, So when I'm hard on a guy, afterwards I encourage him, but then I also explain the why so they understand why I'm like this. So I just want them to play at the highest level because I have a standard when it comes to basketball.
What are some of your goals right now as a coach? What are you hoping to achieve?
I mean, just like when I was playing, I want to win every game. I want to win state, I want to be a mentor for these kids like my coaches were. And I just want to basically show them what I learned at a later age so they can learn it at the age 14.
And, a lot of guys don't have that hunger. You did. Where did that come from?
Just my brothers beating me up and stuff like that, seeing them, and I had to work harder to be better than them. So
coaches have a lot to do with it, too. Obviously, Larry did. Obviously, Jank had to have a whole lot with developing you, being the guy that recruited you and recruited you again here, right?
Yes. He basically gave me my first opportunity to play Division I basketball, and I mean, he believed in me, and he held me accountable too. But he also let me be Nick.
Yeah. You met your wife Michelle when you were at Illinois State, and then later married. Have a family. You're playing in Europe for a number of years. France, I know, a few other places. How hard was that with a young family going through that?
I mean, it just showed us that we can get through anything. Us five being over there and have to figure life out. Just showed us morals that we wanted to bring back to the state too. Life was good. I mean, it was just us.
And now Melissa High School, you both work there. That has to be fun, too.
It's awesome. I get to see my wife at work. She helps me out. It's a lot of fun. At first, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but now I love teaching and I love coaching.
That's great.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Nick, again, congratulations on the Hall of Fame last night.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
for coming
guys.
by today.
Thank
Nick
you guys
Moore,
for having me.
SMU Mustang, Hall of Famer. two-time American Athletic Conference Player of the Year. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you.
This is the Podium Pregame Show presented by Origin Bank, and we'll wrap things up here as we move on to our Meet the Enemy segment, getting ready for SMU and TCU today in the battle for the Iron Skillet. Scott, the 103rd all-time meeting. TCU 53-42-7, the most played opponent in SMU history. The Frogs, unfortunately, have won the last two, and can you believe Sonny Dykes has won the last four in this series?
So frustrating to think about that. But, hey, you win this ball game. Thank you, Nick. You win this ball game, and, all of a sudden, you've now won, 3 of the last 5?
Yeah.
So this would be a nice win for the Mustangs for so many different reasons. But they've got a tough opponent. This is going to be a tough TCU team for these guys. It really starts with that quarterback offensively. And, Rich, he does so many things well, and Steve talked about getting after him. The problem is you've got to pick and choose your spots because he doesn't get sped up. When you watched UCF against him last week, he had guards getting into his lap and still was able to hit targets, check downs, things of this nature. He did not get sped up. That's what's so impressive about him. Not only is he accurate, he plays with poise, so it's hard to get. And obviously the numbers play that out too. He's only been sacked one time. I think it goes back to the Stanford game, so it's been a couple of games for them. But he is such a leader. You mentioned the 119 attempts without an interception, but his interception to touchdowns ratio has really improved. He had, 15 touchdowns last year against 9 interceptions. He's got 8 touchdowns this year against no interceptions. So we've got to pick it. We're going to put pressure on him, but we're going to have to pick and choose our spots in terms of blitzing and running stunts.
Yeah, he took over as a starter for the final 6 games last year. He struggled. The team struggled some, but obviously much different with over 1,000 yards passing now through the first 3 games. 3 tremendous targets. Savion Williams has 20 catches. Jack Beck has 17. He had 200 yards last week. And J.P. Richardson, not your typical slot receiver at 6 foot and about 200 pounds. He had 13 catches in the first 3 weeks. He has terrific options to throw the football, too.
Options galore. You can try to double team a guy. You can try to move a safety over, but they can always look over to the other side. They are that good. And what's interesting is if you blitz, you're going to end up in man coverage. They're so athletic, it's hard to match up with a man-to-man. You go zone, they've got guys like Chase Curtis, the tight end, that can sit down in the middle of that zone and find the soft spot. So you really have to change things up. Scott Simons has his work cut out for them. He's up for the challenge. We can absolutely defend them, but you've got to be smart about how you do it, and I'm sure the Mustangs will be ready to go.
Defensively, they've been without their top 2 defensive ends, their top 2 corners so far through the first 3 weeks. One of those on the defensive line, Paul Oyewale, may be back this week, but I think their linebackers are fantastic. Johnny Hodges, who we saw previously at Navy, he's been great. Nnamdi Obiazor has 20 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Those 2 guys have been the best of their defense so far this year.
Oyewale, that you talked about, is the number 3 tackle on the depth chart. And I'm watching film, and I'm going, man, this guy's great. They got him listed 3rd on the depth chart. They're that deep at that tackle position. Elam Zor, watch him, number 3. He's that Cal transfer. He spies the quarterback a lot, or at least did so last week against UCF, and I'm sure he'll do that again with the same type of philosophy. But I want you to look at the cornerback spot, Rich. Number 1, you got to get number 6 blocked on kicks. That guy is unbelievable.
No doubt.
Oh, he came around. He blocked a kick last week, and I think he got close to 2 or 3 others.
Well, they blocked 3 overall last week.
Got a piece of him.
Can't have that happen.
Cannot let him get around that edge.
Don't worry, our kicker's good.
I don't think it was a kicker. That was the concern.
Yeah, you're right.
But, hey, watch number 13. Number 13. Broughton, he got burned. I counted 6 times last week, a couple times on just outside releases running go routes, but a couple of times over the middle on slants and post.
He was, I thought, outstanding in the Stanford game, and I thought he was the exact opposite last week against UCF.
You realize they lost 2 cornerbacks in camp. That's been a big issue for them. So they're suspect on the back end. We got to be able to take advantage of it and expect SMU to run some play action and some RPO stuff, get those linebackers in tight cheating, get those safeties coming down into the box a little more frequently, and then that's when you hit them over the top. But, again, you got to pick and choose your spots.
All right, here's my stat of the week for you.
Okay.
5-0.
5-0.
That is the record of former South Oak Cliff High School quarterbacks starting for SMU against TCU all time. We got another one today, and Kevin Jennings.
How long did it take you to research that?
I'm going to give a shout-out to my buddy Cleve Hardman. He gave this to me earlier this week. He's a regular over at the Pony Express show at Ozona on Wednesday nights. Yeah, Mike Livingston, led SMU to a 20-0 win over TCU in 66 and a 28-14 win in 67. And then Ricky Wesson engineered the wishbone offense of the Mustangs. They won 33-13 in 1974, 28-13 in 1975, 34-14 in 1976. And now Kevin Jennings will be the third different South Oak Cliff quarterback making the sixth start against TCU. We need to get him to 6-0.
Need to get him to 6-0. Hey, you're going to have a great crowd. Going to be a sellout today. We're going to come out playing with an edge. I fully expect to see that. So get ready. This could be a defensive matchup, kind of like what we saw against BYU a couple of weeks ago.
All right, time now for the Origin Bank Pick'em Challenge. We pick games each week, 5 games each week here on the show. And when we do it at home, we have a celebrity guest picker. And joining us here today, John Ross, 3-time tennis All-American, and one of the 5 inductees last night in the SMU Hall of Fame. Congratulations. That had to be a fun night as well.
Thank you very much. It's a great event. My family, we were down here from New Jersey. I have 4 kids, my wife, Alexandra, and we had a great time. They did an incredible job. It's right here in Armstrong.
Yeah. Got to meet our buddy Nick there, too.
That's it. That's right.
All right, John, you ready for our 5 games we're going to pick
sure
here
am.
today? Last week, Steve and I both went 3-2. Scott, you were 2-3. I got the all-time.
Was that Colorado that got me last week? I noticed you put
a long
Colorado
time
back.
ago.
I noticed you put them back in there.
It's a good game. I'm 10-5, by the way, leading the way thus far. We got a game coming up here shortly.
Notice how he leads with that this year. We never heard any of that last year, Steve.
Right.
Never heard that.
I don't know what happened.
The records are brought up when Rich is winning.
Hey, it's early. It's early,
I'm
Steve.
the one that leads the show. So what do you want me to do? 3 o'clock today. 12th ranked Utah at number 14, Oklahoma State. Both teams 3-0. Winner would establish himself probably as a favorite in the Big 12. How about the coaches in this? Kyle Whittingham and Mike Gundy, each in their 20th season at their respective schools. Whittingham 165 and 79. Gundy's 169 and 79. How about that?
How about the coaches? How about the quarterbacks?
Oh, they're combined
age is 49 years old.
That's ridiculous.
And it's still really weird to think of Utah and Oklahoma State as being in the same conference. But Oklahoma State has won 7 consecutive home games against AP top 25 teams. Ollie Gordon, the Cowboys running back, is way too good to be stuck at 3.5 yards per carry. And only Alabama has more home wins since 2020, since Oklahoma State. Give me the Cowboys.
John?
I like OSU on this one. I think they look good.
Okay. Scott?
Well, you look at Utah. They're just 26% on third downs this year. That is not very good. They are struggling. OSU's got it rolling. You talked about it. They're getting 42 points per game. They're only allowing about 20 a game. I'm going to go Cowboys, too.
Cam Rising is expected back at quarterback this week for Utah, but the 25-year-old quarterback will lose to the 24-year-old quarterback, Alex Bowman. I'll take Oklahoma State as well. 6 o'clock tonight. How about Cal at Florida State? Who thought this was going to be a big one when the season started?
Real big with it.
Cal's 3-0. They make their ACC debut tonight. Florida State 0-3 for only the 3rd time in 50 years and the 2nd time in 4 years under Mike Norvell. They're 0-3.
Nobody at SMU wants to see Florida State come in here winless next week.
No, you're right.
If there is a desperate team in the country, it is Florida State. They are at home. Cal is riding high after beating Auburn.
Yep.
And San Diego State.
And San Diego State. And Florida State started to look a little bit better at the end of the loss to Memphis. I think Florida State figures out how to get a win today.
John?
I think Florida State's going to get it done as well. They've had they've had a tough start, but they got a bunch of good players on that roster, and for whatever reason, they couldn't get it together first couple of games, but I think they're going to pull it back together.
And it's the 4th game in a row. They will have been favored going in, so we'll see what they do. But, yeah, DJU, he's missed a ton of throws. His mechanics are a little off. He's not stepping into throws. He's just got some issues right now. Florida State, that run game's unsettled, but I think FSU bounces back, even though Cal, boy, they have really done well against very tough opponents. Going to be a tight one, but I'm going to go Seminoles in it.
Yeah, DJ Uiagalelei. How about 666 passing yards? Thank you. 666 passing yards. That doesn't sound good, does it? 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions in 3 games.
Yep.
But I think he'll correct some things this week, and I think Florida State gets that win.
Nobody has the guts to go Cal, do they?
No.
Not one of us.
Not yet.
6:30 tonight. 6th-ranked Tennessee is at number 15, Oklahoma. They're both 3-0. SEC opener for the Sooners. Tennessee is led by Coach Josh Heupel, who won the 2000 national title quarterbacking Oklahoma, and he's going back there today.
They're both undefeated, but when you watch them, they don't look that close. And Oklahoma is a prohibitive underdog at home. Maybe Brent Venables can turn that into one of those "they don't respect us" rallying cries, but I don't think they have enough to handle Nico Iamaleava and the Tennessee defense.
Look at you, man.
I've been practicing too, man. You do your homework, I do my homework. I think Tennessee wins.
John?
I agree. I think Coach Heupel will go in there and have a good game plan. I predict he goes home and wins the game.
You know, and if you watched OU against Tulane last week, that was a 5-point game late, and I think OU had built that lead up to 3 touchdowns, and I told my son who was at the game, I said, you watch, Tulane's going to fight. They did. I thought for a moment they may up-in them up there in Norman. They didn't do that, though, but OU going to be challenged. Tennessee's outscored opponents to 191 to 13 so far. They can run the ball, 336 yards per game. Obviously, given the opponents, that number skewed, but Tennessee, they're going to line up and run that football. I'm going Tennessee today.
Yeah, you mentioned the 13 points Tennessee's given up. No offensive touchdowns have been allowed by the Volunteers yet. I'll take Tennessee on the road tonight. 7 o'clock tonight, Baylor is at Colorado. Both are 2-1. Baylor with wins over Air Force and Tarleton State, however. Colorado did beat North Dakota State and Colorado State. I guess that's more impressive on their wins. I don't know. Baylor lost to Utah. Colorado lost to Nebraska.
This is my weekly game where if both teams could lose in a perfect world, this would be it. I'd love to see them both lose. Colorado hasn't run the ball yet this year.
No.
It got a little bit better in their snoozer over Colorado State, but Deion Sanders still wants the offense to be all about his son, Shedeur. And Baylor ran the ball okay, but again, they've been playing a couple of intramural games. Baylor's better than the teams that Colorado has played so far, but not better enough. It won't be pretty, but Colorado wins.
John?
I think Colorado wins. I think they probably have a little bit more talent, and they've obviously not played great beginning of the year, but I think they're going to get it together. I predict Colorado comes through.
All right, Scott?
Colorado, very athletic. They're at home. They've struggled. There's no doubt. I'm really all about defense, pressure, intensity, playing with an edge, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to go Colorado just because the Bears, 77th in total offense. I think Colorado will outscore them.
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders has thrown for 999 yards and 9 touchdowns already. I'm going to take Colorado with that one as well. And at 9:30 tonight, 13th-ranked K-State plays the last team we saw, BYU. They're both 3-0. K-State quarterback Avery Johnson ran for 110 yards last week against Arizona. And he's thrown for 2 touchdowns in every game as well.
The last time these two teams met was the 1997 Cotton Bowl.
Jeez.
When they were coached by Lavelle Edwards for BYU and Bill Snyder for Kansas State. Now those schools have named their stadiums after those coaches.
Man, we're getting old, aren't we?
Stings a little, doesn't it? Kansas State's offense has not hit its top gear yet, but it'll be enough to go into Provo and get a win today over BYU.
John?
I like K-State. I think they got a great defense, and I think they looked a little bit better so far. So that's my direction I'd go.
Okay.
And, hey, we know how BYU can play defense. There's no doubt about it. K-State, huge win over 20th-ranked Arizona, as you talked about, 31-7. But the Cougars, they struggled to move the ball. I don't know. I can't. I want to go with them because I was so impressed with them 2 weeks ago. I just can't do it. I'm going Wildcats in this one.
BYU has only allowed 4 touchdowns in 3 games. They're going to give up a lot more, though, I think, tonight. I'll take K-State.
You fooled me. I thought you were going the other direction.
No, I fooled myself because I had the wrong note down, by the way. I'm going K-State. Trust me, I'm going K-State. Hey, John Ross, again, congratulations on getting in the Hall of Fame last night, and thanks for joining us here.
Congratulations.
Appreciate you guys having me.
That is our Pick'em segment this week, brought to you by Origin Bank, also our sponsor here of the show. Special thanks to them for sponsoring the show each week. Origin Bank knows what strong teams can accomplish by working together. Origin's trusted advisors help you keep your financial goals within reach. Get the right people on your team today at originbank.com, member FDIC. All right, give me a couple quick keys to success in the battle for the Iron Skillet today, Scott.
A couple of really important keys today. Mustangs got to stay ahead of the chains. First down, so important today. Can't find yourself in 3rd down and long against this defense. Got to run the ball, limit TCU's possessions and their snaps today. And you've got to neutralize the Frogs' speed at that linebacker position. So important today. Going to see a lot of 11 personnel, 12 personnel, I would think, with some H-back. Do a lot of stuff that we saw from, quite frankly, UCF last week. But that's going to be important. You're going to have a chance to catch them over the top with some play-action passing, some RPO stuff today. and then neutralize the TCU fast starts. That has been a key for them. It was last week against Central Florida. TCU's outscored opponents 31-7 in first quarters this year. It's going to be important for the Mustangs to maybe not necessarily get off to a hot start. You hear that all the time. Got to get off to a fast start. Don't have to do that offensively, but you have to keep TCU from doing that today. So I think those are the three big keys for the Mustangs.
It is SMU and TCU, 4 o'clock kick here at Ford Stadium. We'll have the radio broadcast beginning at 3:30 today. It's on 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket. It's also available on the SMU app. Also available on Sirius XM Channel 202. You can check us out. Maybe use your DVR to sync us up with the CW, Channel 33 here in Dallas-Fort Worth, which is where the TV broadcast will be with our good buddy Tom Brenneman.
He'll be there. He will be there.
First guy to greet us when we got to the press box today was
Couldn't
Tom
get in the
Brenneman.
booth.
No, he couldn't. All right, so be sure you join us there again. 3:30 for our pregame. 4 o'clock is the kickoff in the battle for the Iron Skillet, SMU and TCU. Thanks to our guests, John, Nick Moore, also to Steve Lansdale. For Scott Garner, I'm Rich Phillips. Let's pony up.